Hello everybody and welcome to a new tutorial. I apologize for not uploading in quite a while, but I finally got around to it. So for today's video, we're going to be converting this RigidBodyFPS controller from the standard assets pack into a usable VR controller, which is really nice because we don't have to write our own locomotion or controller from scratch. To get started, you want to download the standard assets pack from the asset store. And you'll also need a VR plugin of your choice, so SteamVR, Oculus, or in my case, the Unity XR plugin. Once we have all that, we should be good to go. One thing with importing the standard assets pack, you'll probably get an error relating to the simple activator menu. And that's an easy fix. You just want to change the cam switch button type from GUI text to text. And that'll get rid of that error. You can go ahead and close that. Okay. So once we have everything fixed, all the errors fixed, everything imported, we can start converting our FPS controller. And you want to drag in this RigidBodyFPS controller from the standard assets, characters, first person, prefabs, and the RigidBodyFPS controller. So drag that in. And before I actually drag in my camera rig, I'm just going to unpack this and delete the main camera. And we're just left with the FPS controller. Okay, and now I'm going to drag in my camera rig. So for me, it's the XR room scale rig. But if you're using a different plugin, then it'll probably be something different. And once we have our rig and our controller, we want to make the rig a child of the controller. And we also want to zero out the positions. Okay. Now looking at it, you'll see our rig is kind of floating in the center. And we want our rig to always be at the bottom of the collider. And to do that, you see we have a capsule collider component on the rig or on the controller. We need to get the half height and subtract that to the position of the Y on the rig. So the half height of 1.6 would be 0.8. So just go to your rig, go to the Y position, and minus 0.8. And that puts us at the bottom of the collider. And anytime you change the height, say you change it to 3, you'll need the half height, which would be 1.5. Go to your rig and subtract 1.5. And that'll always put us at the bottom. Ideally, you do that from script, but we're just going to do this manually for now, for time's sake. Alright, so once you have that at the bottom, we can go ahead and start messing with the script. Now looking at it, there's a lot of useful things, the movement settings, advanced settings, but stuff like the mouse look, we don't really need that. So we can just go ahead and open that up and start messing around. So we're going to get rid of this mouse look, we don't need it. So just delete that at line 82 and start deleting all the references to it. So 124, there's a reference. Okay. And 232, this whole rotate view, we don't need this either, so we're just gonna go ahead and delete that along with the reference. Okay. And 130, there's a reference to rotate view, just go ahead and delete that. Okay. Okay. So what we're gonna want to do to get this working with VR properly is we're going to want to get the collider to follow the position of the head, so we're not colliding or we're not going into any solid objects. And we're also going to want to set the movement direction to whatever you want it to be. So your hand, your head, we're going to be able to just change that. So we're going to need a variable for our movement direction. Public transform. And let's just call that movement direction. Okay. Now first, we're going to get the collision working, having the collider following the X and Z of your head. So let's go down here to update. Okay. And we want to get the capsule collider center. The center X and Z to follow the X and Z of your main camera. And we have a reference for the cam already in there, so let's go ahead and drag in the main cam. In our movement direction, I like my movement on my left hand. It's just I point my hand and I move in that direction. But you can put that on your camera, your right hand, and it'll work just fine. Okay, so with collision, now that we have our camera referenced, we just want to say mcapsule.center. We have a reference to our capsule collider already. We want to set the center equal to the position of our head. So new vector 3. And one thing is, you see our capsule collider is on the topmost parent. That's the world position. And our main cam is a child, so it would be getting the local position. And you'd have some problems if you just say mcapsule.center is equal to cam.transform.position. You actually want to get or convert the position of the cam to world space. So to do that, let's just make a new vector 3 called cam pose is equal to transform point of the cam.transform.position. And all this is doing is converting the camera's position to world space. Okay, and now we can set the center of our capsule to the X and Z of our cam pose. So capsule center is equal to new vector 3 cam pose.x. We want to keep the y the same, so mcapsule.center.y and cam pose.z. Okay, and now that should work if we go back and try it. Alright, so if I click play, you see the collider is following my head. Cool. And now we need to set the direction of our movement. Now all the movement's already handled here. It's just not using it's using the direction of your camera. So if you want head-based direction or movement, then you can go ahead and just leave this as default. But I want to be able to change that. So we set this movement direction variable. Let's go ahead and use that for the desired move. So set the movement direction, or replace the cam with the movement direction. Okay. And that's really all you need to get this controller working with VR. Let me go ahead and put the headset on and show you. Get my VR set up real quick. Make the game bigger. Alright, and since I set the movement direction on my left hand, you see if I point my controller that way, I'll go that way. If I point it to the left, I'll go to the left. And I can move around with my desired movement direction. And since we set up our collision, if we're moving into a wall and we try to walk into it, it'll push us back. Okay. there's a couple things that I like to tweak in the movement settings. I like to make my speed a little slower and also set the back speed, the strafe speed, equal to the forward speed. That just makes it feel a little better. And that should be everything you need to get this working. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me and I'll try to answer all of them. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.